Hi guys, Kelly here, and today I want to share with you my most recent reads. And I have 3 books to share with you today, and my last recent reads had a lot of just middle of the road books, and all 3 of the books I have to share with you today are all 4 stars and above. So my reading trend seems to be headed higher into better books. So I have, like I said, 3 books to share with you. I'm going to start with Freefall by Jessica Berry. And this is a thriller. I had never heard of this thriller before I saw it in the library, and this was a complete cover pickup because it's like a navy blue and silver cover, which those colors appeal to me. And then as soon as I looked at the description and saw that it was going to be kind of a survivalist thriller, I knew I wanted to check it out. And so this actually is a newer release. I think it came out in January. And like I said, I gave this 4 stars. So I did really enjoy it. I thought it was fun and entertaining, but I found maybe not real memorable. So even though it's like a solid read, 4 stars, it probably isn't going to be like one of my favorite thrillers that I remember in a few months, all the details. I'm already getting a little more fuzzy on the details from reading this a couple weeks ago, but at the time I found it very entertaining. This is a story told in dual perspectives. It's told from our main character, what is her name? Allison. And she, at the beginning of the book, is in a plane crash, a private airplane. So there's only 2 people on the plane, her and the pilot, and she's the only survivor. And so she's in the middle of nowhere and has to survive to get to civilization. And then our other perspective is from Maggie, who is Allison's mother, who hasn't talked to Allison in a while, so isn't sure what's happening in her life. And she finds out about the plane crash. Her daughter is presumed dead, so she thinks her daughter is dead, and she wants to find out how she got to be on this private plane and ended up dying, what had been happening in her life since her and her mom had no longer been talking. So a lot of this book is mainly just kind of learning about what's been happening in Allison's life that leads her to this big event. So the first half is a lot of the survival stories that she's telling, and then when we're in Maggie's head, we're really learning more about Allison's life. The reason I gave it a 4 stars, like I said, it's not anything monumentous. It's a good, fun read, but nothing hit me as oh, this is fantastic or anything. There are maybe reveals, but they're not big twists and turns. Mainly what makes this entertaining for me was I really enjoy survivalist stories, so I like to see her kind of journey of how she survived the plane crash and what she did until she got to civilization. And I also like thrillers that kind of involve secret paths and kind of we're slowly getting that information. So I really enjoyed a lot of this stuff, but like I said, it's not a huge reveal and twists or anything like that. So if you're someone that likes your thrillers to be really super action-packed, lots of twists and turns, this isn't that. It's more just a really solid read and kind of figuring out what's been happening in someone's life and them surviving. And next we have another 4-star read. I read Skyward by Sanderson. This has been going around BookTube a lot of people reading it. It is his newer YA sci-fi book, and he doesn't write a lot of young adult books, and he doesn't write a lot of sci-fi, so it was kind of interesting to have a different thing from Sanderson. A lot of people really adore this. I read it with other people, buddy read it, and a lot of them gave it 5 stars. For me, it wasn't a 5-star book. It was a good solid 4-star read. I enjoyed it, but it definitely won't be one of my favorites. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't think that the whole series would be, because it had potential to set up for the next book being a 5-star read and being really good, but this one specifically, it just didn't really pull me in and invest me enough to be 5 stars. So the main story behind this is there's a group of humans that are living on this planet. They've only been there, I think, for 70 years or something like that. They had crash landed from a spaceship onto this planet and have been building up a civilization. But the whole time that they're living here, they're being attacked by aliens coming from outer space. And so a lot of the society, the main thing is that they breed pilots so they can fight the aliens. And Spencer, all she ever wants to do is be a pilot. But when she was younger, her father was a fighter pilot, and he ended up turning coward and left the fighting and was shot down, because in this society, being a coward is the worst thing ever. So Spencer's kind of lived with this kind of hate on her family because of what her father has done her whole life, and she's at the age where she can finally take the pilot test, and so this is all that she's ever wanted to do. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because a lot of the interesting parts of this are like kind of her figuring out how to deal with her past and her ambition to become a pilot. And so the things I liked about this, because there were a lot of things I did enjoy. I liked that Spencer like really had a bold personality. Like, she's one of those that you probably either love her or hate her, because some people think she's annoying because she is like really bold and brassy, and that's because she's been like made fun of and being called a coward like her entire life because of what her father did, and she's been really treated badly, so she has a big defensive wall up, and so her character is kind of larger than life because she's trying to like use that as a defense mechanism by being like really crass and everything like that. So I really enjoyed her. I liked the way she grows as a person throughout this book, so I really enjoyed her character. I loved a lot of the other characters that were in here. Since it's like a fighter pilot kind of society, we learn about kind of all about different pilots and how they work together as a flight squad, and I just liked those interactions and learning about the different people and where they come from and how they interact in a, you know, live or die situation. I thought there was some great characters. But the reason for me why I didn't give it 5 stars is that this has a lot of action in it, and so if you are a big like sci-fi fighter pilot kind of fan, you probably will love this. But for me, those kind of scenes, I find them boring. It's like, I love watching sci-fi movies. Like, I can watch like Star Wars or other movies that have like fighter pilot jets, you know, attacking aliens and other things, but reading about it just wasn't interesting to me, and that's probably just a me thing. It's just that like those kind of scenes just don't play out well in books for me, and I don't think that's anything against Brandon Sanderson. I think that was just me finding it boring to hear about like planes dodging and shooting at each other and all that stuff. I don't know. I just couldn't get invested, and since so much of this was like action scenes inside of planes, that made it not a 5-star for me. But the relationships and the like people and the world that was starting to be like described are enough that I would continue the series and find it really interesting and would recommend it to others. And if you are somebody that likes those kind of fight scenes in planes in books, then you might find this to be a 5-star read. And the last book I want to talk about is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I listened to this on audio, so I do not have the physical book. I would recommend the audiobook. I thought the narrator did a great job, and it was just like, you know, it's a fluffy romance book, and so just listening to it was fun and nice when I was taking walks or in the car. This book is about our main character, Olive, who at the beginning is the maid of honor in her twin sister's wedding. We get established that she does not like the best man, who is the brother of the groom, and so that we are establishing that like hate relationship right off the bat. Well, at the wedding, everybody in the whole wedding gets sick because they ate off of this seafood buffet, but Olive is allergic to seafood, and our other character, Ethan, who is the best man, he does not eat off of buffets at all. So the two of them are the only ones that didn't eat the seafood, and so they are the only ones that didn't get sick. Well, her sister has this honeymoon that is, you know, occurring very soon, and since they are all sick, the bride and groom can't go on the honeymoon. So Olive's sister says that she should take the honeymoon since it's not refundable and they can't change the dates. And so Olive and Ethan end up taking their siblings' honeymoon, and they hate each other, but they think, well, we'll just kind of like do our own thing, take advantage of a free 10-day trip. But when they get there, you know, they have to kind of pretend that they're a newly married couple because this trip, it was won in a game or whatever, sweepstakes, and so they have to pretend to be like the honeymooner recipients. So of course this has like 2 of my favorite tropes. It has the like hate to love trope, which I don't think that's a spoiler because it's a romance novel, and then also it has the whole like fake relationship trope since they have to pretend with the public that they are a newly married couple. So I just found this really fun book. I gave it 5 stars, which is pretty unique for me because I don't really read adult romance books. I read YA romance books, and the reason for that is that I find like adult romance books don't have a lot of plot. Like they were basically just following two people that are inevitably going to end up together, and I just don't find that interesting enough. So that when I read like YA romance, usually there's a lot of like growing up because they're coming of age at the same time that they're having their first love. So there's other plot going on. So I just don't usually read adult romance, but this one had my favorite tropes, so I gave it a try, and I just found it really entertaining because I really liked this couple, the way they interact with each other. Some of my big gripes with like romance books when I read them is that there's lots of miscommunication, and I'm like, if these two people would just talk to each other, they would realize they should have been together all along, or they could just like get over whatever conflict there is in the story, or there's like an inflated conflict that doesn't make any sense in real life. But in this book, I didn't think either of those happened. Like, I felt like every time they were having issues, they did talk about it. And obviously there were times that they were mad at each other and things like that, but I felt like there was a lot more communication than that normally is in romance books. And also, I liked how the conflicts that did occur were very natural. Like, I can't tell you what they are because that would be a spoiler because it happens later in the book. But like, every time a conflict came up, it felt like, okay, this could really be true in real life, and this would be how somebody would actually react to it. So I enjoyed that it felt more like a real relationship and like real conflict than just us seeing these two people to get together. So I really enjoyed it. Of course, you should probably take that with a grain of salt because I don't read very much adult romance. So maybe I just really liked this one because I didn't have a lot of expectations going into it. I just thought the entire thing was really fun, entertaining, and loved it. And I don't really have many complaints at all. I don't know if I will continue reading their books, but for this one, I found it to be a great read and would highly recommend it, especially if you're somebody that actually does read romance books. And that's it for me. 3 books that I really did enjoy and would recommend to you guys. If you've read any of these or want to discuss more, go ahead and leave me a comment. Thanks. Bye.